Hello everybody and welcome to Adobe Live. We'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we are streaming and creating from today and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. My name is Flynn and I'm here with the fantastic Adrianne Walujo. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm great, thanks. How about you, Flynn?
I'm good. We had a good hangout on Tuesday, illustrated a fantastic cow, which we'll see in a second in case you missed it. I'm just really looking forward to watching you animate this. So going from illustration in Illustrator into animation in After Effects, always super cool. Very excited to be back hanging out with everybody. What's up, chat? Hey, Johanna, thanks for looking after us today. Manny from Philadelphia, lovely to have you here with us. Alessandra as well, what's up? If you're over on YouTube and you'd like to have a chat with us, jumping over to behance.net/live, be.net/live, that's a bit easier to punch in and say hello. Lovely to hear where you're from and what's going on. Should we have a bit of a recap of what we did on Tuesday? So this is a two-part series. So we can even jump over to your screen and check out your beautiful illustration here. Look at all these happy dairy cows.
I think on Tuesday, basically, we spent a lot of time on like the cows, and in between Tuesday and today, I did some homework, which is like completing the rest of the scene, which is needed. Just gonna go through really quickly like what we were talking about and like regarding like choosing colors, because I think like I was talking to like a few different illustrators and how like color really, it affects the mood, it affects the focus. And yeah, so as I was like building this illustration, I kept checking like the value, and I was like showing on Tuesday how to do that easily. And that's like using this black rectangle and then having the opacity on color. So it's basically
such a cool tip.
Yeah, it's kind of like making it grayscale, but I know how to do it in like Photoshop, but I was not sure how to do that like in Illustrator without changing the mode, I think. I don't know. Actually, I don't know. So yeah, I used this rectangle, and when I was like doing the sketch, I had kind of like an idea of what it looks like. So I was just kind of like making sure that the contrast is there, but like some things change, like the grass, so making sure that like the value like matches up. So it was before when I was like editing, I noticed like, for instance, like the pants has the same kind of like grayness. So like to make it contrast, I have to change like the color. So yeah, so that's like how I do my final check. Like this is like the first time I was like more technical about like choosing colors. Like last time I just trial and error my way out of like the color picking, but hopefully this can help I was like talking about this like with my friends, and like they find it interesting, like how, I forget if I talk about this, like for something that is far away, it tends to blend more into like the sky, like for instance, the mountain, like, so you, even though like up close it may be green, but then because it's so far away, like it blends more. So less contrast because it is a background. So like those things that I'm more intentional about now. So this is like the complete like illustration, and now we are going to bring that, as like Flynn has said, to After Effects to animate. And you did ask about how, or like when do we start thinking about preparing something for animation. I think like the next step is like where we kind of start like to be more strategic about it. So I drew a beautiful sketch-ish in here. So this is like not the standard industry storyboard, like usually it's better, but like when you're planning for some movements, like, so I was thinking of having this, to have like a square frame, because like nowadays it's interesting, like in the past you have the 1920 to 1080, like 16 to 9 dimension, but like now with like you actually see more like square because of Instagram, for instance, or
a bit more vertical sometimes as well.
Yeah, like a bit more vertical because of like people are holding their phone that way. So it's like nowadays, like you can be more experimental with like your frame. For this instance, I'm choosing square, and I want to have like, oh, that's like I'm seeing here, like, oh, like there's like a green background. Let's start with a green background of the same color, and it like moves up. So it's kind of like panning up and transition to the next scene. So I think like another thing that I really enjoy about motion design is creating fun transitions. This is not exactly like that, like fun, bombastic or whatever. Like it's
bombastic, yeah. A callback from Tuesday's episode. Great word.
Yeah, it's not. But like it's fun to create something seamless. Like you don't want to see like corners or where you can see like. It's nice being able to do that seamlessly. So in here, I'll have it move up, and then I want the leaf to rather be cut off like this. I want it to. I forget that you can't see like my hand, but like I'm like pointing to my screen. But like I want the leaf to overlap between the two scenes. So like just thinking about this, it allows me to think about how do I prepare my like files.
Oh, so, very cool. And you've used like red in there to kind of like indicate like a little bit of movement, just so it kind of breaks it up a little bit easier to see.
Yeah. So like I know like in like I forgot about that. Like that's like because I was like looking at it for myself, I forgot to do that, but. It's helpful like when you're working in again like in a studio or an agency, you just have like for movement or for notes, like you have it in a different color than the frame itself, so you know that this is not something that you should have in the storyboard. Like sorry, like in the final thing, like you don't want to draw the arrow inside the thing, but it's just to indicate movement. Yeah, so that's why I created like a really simple one. So I reused like some of the leaf and the flowers, and that's this one, like kind of like the title screen. So it's like enjoy nature, and I separate like the text, the curve, the background. I use like a free like Google font, and also I like to use like Adobe fonts. And in like my Adobe Max presentation, like I found really nice handwritten fonts, and it's like really good. It's like you can use it anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like the title screen, and then I separate the original like illustration to like the landscape. So we have like the clouds, and again, like even though the clouds were on the two sides, I just need one, so I put it like that. And I make the frame bigger than it actually is, because it like when you export it, it will only export what is within the artboard. So make sure that your element doesn't have to be where it is supposed to be. Like you can adjust it in After Effects, but you don't want, for instance, like in the farm, like even though like you don't see the whole of the tree, you don't want to cut it off because like you can't move things around, and it gets it becomes inflexible if you have the size as it is.
Right.
So yeah, and naming all your files and layering them. So when you layer them differently in After Effects, it means that you will be able to move them separately. If not, like say if you just merge everything, like so they'll just become like one group of element in After Effects.
Right. Okay. Cool. And labeling is important because when you bring it into After Effects, do the labels carry over? Is that why?
Yep. So when you get the label carries over, definitely. So that's really important when you have like say 5 different leaf or like 5 different hills. You don't get confused. Yeah, it's it's life-saving and time-saving. And the next thing that I separate was the character. And again, like I'm not doing a lot of like character animation in this instance. So even like for the hair, I just like have half of them. And because I'm going to have them like swing a bit. And this is actually like a mistake. And this is like a negative example. I was like saying on Tuesday that making sure that your elements are like even like under the hat you can't see the hair, but then like making sure that there's more overlap. So later you'll see that when I'm trying to move, like you can actually see this thing appearing, and that's why when you're preparing for your animation, illustration for animation, like it's like you have more overlap, so you have more room to like move it around.
Right.
So that's the kind of that's I guess the difference between when you're illustrating for static and illustration for animation. So that's the third item. And the fourth is the cow. Yay! The cow has more layers than the human.
So much love for this cow. It's so cute. It's awesome.
It is. I was like sharing it with my colleague as well. Like I was like, oh, I did a stream today and I made this really cute cow, even though I made everything else, but I was just like sharing this cow. Yeah, so like having the eyes and the head, like the tail, like even for the tail, I separate them, like the shadow. So just like if you want to do more details, like separating them makes sense. And the fifth one, I think, which is the last one, which is just the leaf, because like as I mentioned, like the leaf, I didn't put it with landscape because I know that at one point the leaf will also overlap between the two scenes. I don't want it to be kind of like stuck in just like one scene, and that's why I have like the flowers, like the two kind of leaf, and then there's like the glow, which is, these are like this kind of like element circles. They are not, they're I feel like they're an important decorative elements that can add a better mood and just like overall feelings to your piece. Okay, so that's the logistic of Illustrator.
That's the prep. Yeah, so quite a bit of planning and experience. I would assume as well, like knowing like what's going to happen kind of in After Effects that we're going to see, and how you can better prepare your files for kind of what your kind of vision for the final animation is going to be.
And I think like this kind of thing, like you as you go on and as you start playing with After Effects, like you learn new things and you kind of like backtrack, oh, I should have done this, and then like you get better every time because you just have more like hours of like playing with After Effects, and you know what annoys you and you know what you should have done better. So like this kind of thing also I've learned as trials and errors where yeah. And just to give like context, like from last time where we left off, we only had like one cow and then one character, and it took me like another like 1 hour to kind of like complete the whole thing, just to give like an idea of how long like the whole thing take, which is like I guess 2 hours just the execution, and then like the sketching, like there's another hour or so, because for me again like concept is always the hardest because that's when you make all the big decisions. Yeah. So now let's go to After Effects. I've done a bit of a groundwork, and this is the thing that I'm going to play this. It's like that.
Oh wow, cool.
So yeah, that's the effects that we're doing. So I haven't kind of finished because there's only like one cow, and then there's no flowers here. So what we'll be doing today, I was thinking that we can I'll show you like the kind of like the framework of like how I attach these two scenes, because these are actually like the first scene is only this one, but then like how do I connect that, like create that transitions. It's really fun, like you can do it from left to right, like from like whichever, but then, and it's fun when you think about like the best way to make it seamless. Yeah, so now and then inside so for instance, I duplicated like a lot of different, like the leaf, for instance. So I have like this composition where it just has the leaf, and I think I showed it in the previous streams before, but I like to bend this, I use like CC bend, and to just like duplicate this and effects. This is a really useful to make your bending thing natural. Project contains an error. Yes. It stresses you when you look at that, but not like because I added an expression. I don't even know how to remove that. Yeah, okay. Yeah. After Effects is good at like warning you if something is off.
Yeah. So you're adding an expression, you're doing it again, you're doing this leaf animation, but on the other side, is that?
Yeah, just kind of like just showing like what happened in that one. So to give people context quickly, just like how to add it. And so as you drag it to the element that you want to bend, the first, like it will be gone, but don't worry, because like you have to set the starting, which is like here roughly, and then the end, which is here, and yeah, like this is what I did with the leaf, is like, and you can like just like bend it like that. And so it's like yeah, when they like showed me how to do this, I'm like, wow, my life has, this is one of those things. It's similar to the draw inside in Illustrator, like it kind of like
life-changing bit. Yeah.
So yeah, so that's how I did that, and so you can just animate like the keyframes here, and another expression that I like to use is when you click all. Here, like loop out ping pong, so that means like it will go A B A B A B. So it's like rather than A, it's like a ping pong. Like it doesn't start, like it kind of eases over to like point A rather than jumps to point A. So that's like a good one when you want to repeat the same movement again.
Very cool. And I'll just let everybody know in chat as well, if you have questions, feel free to throw them in as we're going along. Alessandra asks, do you have any other sketch or brainstorm before doing the animation? And what is your favorite part of the process?
I think like for this instance, like that was like the only sketch, because like it's like relatively like a simple one. But then yeah, like trying out different like thumbnailing and see what works. It's easier to see for transition like in thumbnails, because you have like the overall view and you kind of know what to prepare. Like for instance, like the leaf, like it's easier when you see it on your sketches. And like from my experience, like storyboarding, like it doesn't have to be like a final beautiful illustration. It just has to show where the movement is and what's happening in the next scene. So it's kind of like more visual diagrams of what's happening in your animation.
Right.
I do like like I'm a pre-production person, honestly. Like I like concept, I like thinking about the style frames and like planning like the different things. Execution, like something that like I like generating ideas, but like executing them sometimes not as diligent on that. So I go here, like I import everything here, and then I have like the first scene. So this is like the first one not in a main composition. So I have the foliage, and then like I have the flowers just moving. Another important thing that I learned from so I work like with an animator. So I did the illustration and she did the motion design. And what she also taught me is also like when animating something as simple as like the text, what really makes it, and like what really separates a more like a beginner to like a more expert is like how the movement eases. And
right.
Because there you go. And so like that's like you access this graph editor from here, like this section here where it looks like there's a graph. You click on that and the keyframes, and you're able to see this is the speed graph. So it's not value, like the speed, like it shows like how it slows down at the end.
Right.
Because again, in reality, like a lot of like it's very rare for something to move in a uniform speed. Like we know that. Again, like this is why animation, like you have to kind of understand how the real world works, and physics. Physics is not my strong subject. Like that's one of the things that.
That's
like,
all right. Just get After Effects to do it for you. That's the thing.
Just get After Effects, but like so you usually like what happens is you turn on easy ease for everything, and then you adjust the graph. And like yes, ever since like I pay attention to that, like it's like a simple thing that can really add. For instance, if I make it like really fast, it will have like a different kind of. So it starts off slow and it's become faster at the end.
Right.
So that's like, yeah. That's the title screen, and then I added a few leaf movement at that. And honestly, like for a lot of these different elements, they're all just their position keyframing. So I guess this is a good example, like when you have like this kind of like flower and glow and all these decorative elements, it's okay to have them in uniform speed because they are not exactly a natural kind of movement, and they're just like roaming and floating around. So that's pretty much what I did for the first scene. And then I went to the second scene, which is just this. Let's go to the landscape. I added like a bit of, like, I know that the camera is going to move up. So what I did as well is I added a bit of movement to the hills and the mountains, but I kind of give them some space between each other. So what does this kind of create like a fake depth effect to show that not everything has to be revealed at once. So when all the different layers of the hills are being like shown, it's not flat. It feels like there's like a different perspective or like a parallax effect. So that's what. It's very subtle.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's it's very subtle, but like you don't want it to be too massive as well, because it's not like, I don't think it's supposed to move that much anyway. So kind of like just even adjusting your timing. So at first I just moved them all a bit in the same kind of distance, and then I moved the keyframes in here. Like you can see here, like there's a bit of just a few frames difference to create that kind of staggered effect.
Right, yeah, and staggered was going to be the word I was going to ask next. Yeah, so you just kind of stagger it a little bit so that everything kind of animates at a slightly different time, even if it's really subtle, like adds to the depth and I guess visually more interesting. Yeah.
And
have we named the cow yet? Have you given the cow a name?
Actually, no.
All right, we're going to need a name, chat. Let us know what we should call this magnificent cow.
Like whenever I play games, like whenever I play those farming games, like all my cows, the name is like very standard, moo moo.
Right.
They're always the standard that. So yeah, if anyone has a creative name. So yeah, like for this one, I just do some like quick head movement. I was thinking like I know like cows, they eat. I think they eat most, like they're always chewing most of the time.
Right.
But yeah, like I won't be doing that because they're so small. But then I was thinking like something that I can do is like the tail. So for the tail, I'll just change, if I press composition settings to change the background color real quick, just to give a good contrast. So I did this here. So I was thinking like I can improve that further, just like having the second part of the tail to stagger as well, because it's heavier. So we'll look at so as it rotates, we move the anchor point here because we want it to rotate from there.
Got some great names already. Leslie the cow, or Beatrice. I like both of them.
Beatrice, that's a very human name.
There's something really funny about calling animals like human names, like Bob, Frank the dog. Like, just there's something really funny about it.
I think there was like obviously like before the pandemic, like in my co-working space, there's like it's nice, like you get to play with other people's dogs.
Yeah.
And there was this dog, his name is Patrick.
Yeah. Cool name.
It's very human.
It's always funny when they're like yelling after their pet, like their dog, dog's running away. It's like, Patrick. Yeah. Sounds like they're yelling at a coworker.
Maybe it is a reflection.
Could be both.
I'm like thinking, if it's like that, there's that.
The head tilt is very cute as well on the cow. It's a little bit South Park actually, like kind of just a subtle little head tilt. I don't know why. Illustration style is obviously incredibly different, but just a little kind of head tilt.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah.
It's like moo.
So I try to create like this kind of rather than it moving at the same speed, like when it starts to go back, it has similar. There's a term for this. I think it's secondary movement.
Right.
Yeah, is that correct, Lynn? Like,
I know what you mean, but I don't know what the technical term would be for it. So basically, the motion, like in the real world, the tail would kind of continue in motion a little bit longer. Yeah, because things in motion keep going.
yeah, it is. That's also like another way of like again, like it's about timing, and yeah, it's about timing, and it kind of show how heavy something is when you do that.
Right.
Similarly, I'm gonna like right click that and have the easy ease because
Anna Davoscott is in chat. Hello, Anna. And says, yes, secondary action. There you go.
Okay.
Very cool. So we're learning. Here Anonymous is asking, what's the cow's name? We were just chatting about that, actually.
kind of like Beatrice.
Oh, secondary action. Well done, Anna. Good to have you here.
I love
Well done.
like puns. Puns like this that just come up to you. I also like quickly added like a loop out animation, again like another best friend of mine. So when you want to have like a repeating movement, and now we go back to the landscape. Yeah, like I can't believe like the time I spent on that. Like it's so small, but then
Yeah, it is great, isn't it? Because like we spent a lot of time like illustrating the cow on Tuesday. Well, you did. I sat here, and then yeah, there's a lot of detail that's gone in. Do you ever find that like for a commercial project, do you ever catch yourself doing that, like spending a lot of time like on a fine detail that you think, oh, actually, I probably could have done that a bit quicker because it was a bit small. Like, do you ever get focused on, something and you feel like, oh, maybe that was a little bit too long to spend on that part of the project?
I think for commercial, I tend to be more practical, and I think like this is where I get to indulge on like things that I wouldn't indulge on, and yeah, like I think for commercial, I tend to focus on the function first, and then if I have time, I'll work from what gives the most impact towards the list. I was gonna say something, but I forgot regarding that. Oh yeah, like I was like, I think someone like with artists, I think it's really important to make it to have like this kind of like project on the side where you can indulge yourself with like different things that you won't really have the time for client projects. And that's what I always tell like younger like artists who are coming like going to the industries, like don't like you will never have full control in a client project unless they really pay you to be who you are, which there are cases like that when you are more like known for the way you express yourself. I know like I have a friend who get a project just to do whatever they want for a music video animation. Right. Yeah.
And that's the brief, like do whatever you want.
Yeah, just do your thing. Like I think it's like something like that. Because like obviously that's a rare occasion, but I think most of the time like they have some kind of like business goals and some kind of information that they have to include. Especially if you're doing like animation for medical like explainer, like you have to be really technical, and sometimes like when I was like doing like the baby, like I was mentioning to you, like a lot of the work that I do is like has baby and moms, and baby has a lot of technical things that you have to be mindful of, like depicting them. Like you can't depict them with a lot of like, for instance, soft toys because it's dangerous. Right. Well, you like you have kids. I think like perhaps you learn about that. Like when you like realize like they don't use pillows. That's what it's like. Is that true? They don't use. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. Like there's certain things at certain stages, and like having soft toy, because you would think you could just illustrate a baby in a crib or something like that, and I don't know if depending on who it was aimed at, could be aimed at like young parents with a 1 month-year-old or something, but they might be more likely to be in a bassinet at that age instead of a big crib, and they wouldn't have toys in their
in their bassinet yet. You know, that's something that comes a little later. All sorts of things like that for sure. Yeah. I remember there's actually someone that's doing a duo that is doing a talk also at Adobe Max, such as yourself. And they're an animation studio called Good Bad Habits. You can check them out. Actually, they do amazing work. And they were talking about how much time they often have to spend researching a subject to understand it themselves, just to begin animating it, just to begin starting to put things into motion. And they sort of have to become experts in the subject as best they can. And they would often spend weeks doing that, trying to understand things, particularly, as you mentioned, like for medical. So if they need to do an explainer video for a medical thing, how much time they would have to spend trying to figure out, you know, what they're actually communicating to try to visualize that in motion.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think it's like the fun part, I think, like with like working with different projects is like you get to learn all this different knowledge that perhaps you wouldn't have encountered or searched for if it's not for projects, which is, yeah. But like with that being said, that means like usually there are a lot of limitations. So yeah, and I don't think client like when they pay you for like certain like budget, like you don't have time to indulge yourself with like smaller details like this house. Yeah, and like so like it'll be funny like if everything worked, like they all move at the same pace. So what I usually do is like to diversify is just like have one that is done animating and then duplicate them in here. So this is another mistake that I did when I first began is like duplicating a composition here, because that does not duplicate the composition. It's still one composition. So if you change one thing here, it will affect the other because it's still linked. So if you want to unlink them and to have a variation of the two, you duplicate them and it will have like a number, like they number it for you. So this is like a second variation of the count.
Right.
It can be as simple as just like moving like the head movement or kind of like staggering it, like the time. I didn't have time, but like I wanted to make one of the cows sitting down, but I didn't. Yeah.
Next stream, we'll just animate cows.
and ducks. I'll include ducks next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, this is not a cool thing. Like, oh, like you have like a second variation of the cow now. So maybe you want to replace one of them. You can press Alt and click both of them, and then just put it there. It will replace it automatically. So you keep all the settings there.
Okay, so if you hold Alt down and put it over, like exactly over, like on top of it, it'll replace it.
Yeah, so you have to click both of them. So both of them are highlighted, and then Alt, and then it replace. In this instance, I only changed like the setting of the scale. But even if I have, say I move this, okay, like this is just for example's sake. It's like the cow is like sliding, and I want to change it. Like I can.
It's like a moon walking cow.
Yeah. So like the keyframes will stay, but it will update the composition. So it's like really useful. That's why to pre-comp your items, because you can have this kind of like flexibility. Oh no, it's still moving. Okay. Right. Yeah, and so for the main okay, half an hour mark. So let's start a new one. Again, it's like 100, 1000, 1030, 15 seconds, and always easier to have like a longer duration, I find, and cut it off rather than realizing that you need more seconds.
Right. So you create a comp that's longer than you expect it will be, and then you'll kind of trim it down to exactly what it needs to be at the end. Is that right? Yeah. So
I have here like the first scene and the second scene, and for the second scene, I'm going to put it at, and again, like this is, there's so many different ways of like doing this, and this is how I do it. And then you parent. So parenting is when you parent something, like say I parent this to the first scene. So when I move it, it will affect the movement of it will bring it, like basically it follows the parent, and it is position, rotation. I think that's it. Like opacity does not affect in parenting, from what I remember. So that's a really useful one because you can parent like scenes not just to another scene, which I will show later, but also parent it to null objects, which is kind of like your controller. And I think a lot of like people use it for character animation when they're moving like a whole face, like they have this controller that they're being parented to. Yeah, and just making sure. So that's like pretty much how I did the, let me just try.
It's really cool. And that's like super easy to do. It's a sort of animation that you'll see like on Instagram and like, I guess on the ads and stuff like that are like produced to kind of grab your attention. But that's like a pretty quick and easy way to do like a really elegant transition, which is super cool. It's only a couple of steps.
Yeah, so it's like if you can plan it beforehand, which is quite like, which is nice again, like because if for instance I didn't plan ahead, like perhaps I'll add more elements here which make it hard to create like that scene. But then because I know, okay, this is a solid color, so I can easily like put like another frame before that with the same color that overlaps. Yeah, so it's really cool. Like I like having like people having, say like they have a handshake and then when the hand move away, like the scene changes. So it's like that is the method that's like kind of like distracting the viewers from the background, and as the background is changing, like you're doing something else in the foreground. So that's, I think like someone was asking like what's my favorite thing to animate. I think transition is actually another fun one. And as you say, like it's simple, so so it's I like simple stuff.
So you're just adding the easy ease in there that you mentioned before?
Yeah, so the easy ease and then just adjusting because it's moving too fast. So even like in the graph, like when you move this around, you're increasing the space within the keyframe and you're able to see how slow or how, yeah. So say like, I like that better. Yep, so that's how I added that. And now I wanted to add like another secondary kind of like slow pan movement, which I'm thinking what is the best way to do that. Right, so I go to layer, new, null object. And this is like what usually, so null object is something, it's empty, but then it's something that you can use as controller, and like people sometimes parent camera to null object to control like camera movement. Let's name this, oh no. Let's name this as controller. Just move things here. Okay. It's like the original movement is just that big swoosh, but I want it to kind of like move up slowly in a uniform manner, right, as it goes. I have to really like process. Should do this one.
And I'll let chat know as well. Like we've got about 15 minutes left as well. So if you've got any questions or anything like that, feel free to throw them in. I'm definitely going to ask about the ray of sunshine that's coming through there.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah, like similar like the sunshine, I put them here rather than inside because I don't want the sunshine to be cut off. And I also added like some CC light sweep, which I really like as well. So here like I have the leaf, like the leaf and the second scene is already parented to the first scene. So actually what I really need to do is just parent the first scene to the controller because everything else will follow the first scene anyway. So then is that, I think. So this is here. And
so what does the controller do? I'm not super following.
sorry, I'm just trying. I'm also like trying. All right, so the controller is moving things really slowly. I'm trying to see if this is even worth it. So before like the big move, it's actually already moving down slowly with the controller. So like the controller kind of like so because if I affect the position of this first scene now, it's going to create like this really weird curve where it's like slow and then it's like suddenly moving up. So what's easy is like you have like another null object which is acting as a controller that kind of moves the whole thing slowly over time. So whatever animation that is happening won't be affected by the slow panning. If that makes... Is it confusing? It's like already moving even before. Yeah. But maybe it doesn't move that much. For me, like in my head, like I have this idea, so then I try and see if it's like something that it,
Right, and you just put like a flat, solid color behind it there, so that we wouldn't see that black.
That's going to, because the scene hasn't appeared yet. But your controller is basically just like, I just rename it controller, but it's like a null object that I parent things around. And let's go to the, for the array. Another thing that won't translate from Illustrator to After Effects is layer mode. So like you have overlay, you have multiply, like the typical layer mode. So you can change it here, and if that does not appear, like there is like this button here to make sure that you can expand like to all the different settings. But sometimes if you don't have, like, it gets messy or it takes up a lot of space, like, so you turn it off.
Right.
But that's where you find your layer mode.
Oh, cool. So it carries over from Illustrator if you have a layer mode on.
Oh no, actually, I think no, I have to turn it on manually here.
You have to, yeah. Okay.
Unless they change it, but like last time, I remember that it will just be like a normal mode, and then you have to kind of turn it on again in After Effects.
And so is that what you did with the ray of light? Because Alessandra has the same question I was going to ask. I love the lighting. How did you do that?
Yes, for the lighting, the ray, if I press U, I'll be able to see. So I make it appear, and then, so like there's two animation happening, which is the opacity, kind of making it transparent, and then just make it a bit more obvious over time. And then having the rotation, which is just like moving here. But that is, so that's like just the ray of light. I also added a CC light sweep effect, which is inside here. Yep. So the effect control, so the CC light sweep, I really like this effect because it actually, if I turn it off, so that's what happened without the light sweep. So creating the light sweep is actually quite cool because you get to have this, it kind of adds like rim light, which I really like. If I isolate this character, like we're all right now isolating at homes. So here if I turn it, like if I move it, like there's actually some kind of like light movement that you can apply to this character. And all that I did was just when I go to effects and preset, I go to light sweep. And then similar to Bandit, like you bring it to the item that you want to have the light sweep on. So it will only affect the character. And I really like how it has like how it follows the shape of the element here.
Yeah, and how do you choose where the rim light's going to be? If it's going to be coming from the top left or top right, or?
Yeah, oh yeah, that's also another thing that I also determined when I was sketching. It's like, okay, I want the sunlight to come from top left, and that's like all the shadow is like on the bottom right, and similarly here as well, like you can change the direction. So I was following the direction of the ray for this one, and you can adjust like the width, like how big or how small.
Very cool. And so for everyone at home, I had our cameras over my camera over the top of what that's happening. So that's all in the top left. That's how you slide forward and backward and move the direction of the light.
And there's like even things like edge intensity, which is how intense the light is, and that light color. So I think you can even have like, for instance, like blue color.
All right. So you have like blue light, like a harsh light, or like a warm light, or a cool light. And
yeah, I can see like here, like the blue color will work really well in a scene where, like, say they're looking at an aquarium, like it's like blue kind of like light.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, that's a crazy effect.
Like a shadow. This is like collection. They like imagine like the lights coming from the front, and usually you only see the rim light. So yeah,
that's really cool. Does it always have that kind of grainy effect to it? Because I think it works great here. I'm just curious if that's a setting or
grainy. Is that just the quality? I think it's not grainy here. Like, what do you mean by grainy? Like on the...
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like it has a little bit of texture on it or something like that, but maybe it's just my eyes going crazy.
Right. Perhaps the internet connection.
Yeah.
On my side. Yeah. It's quite glow. There's no texture though to that. Sadly. I think it will look really cool if it has like a dissolved kind of feeling. Yeah, but that's like how I added the light sweep, just to... I'm still isolating. So this is also
sweep's super cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of presets that I haven't explored yet, but those are the few things that, like even without the ray, like it's already adding that, but the ray just gives more context to what's happening. I think to finish this kind of like off what I'm just going to be like copying the flower from the first scene to the top there.
Johanna says, kind of feel a femme fatale / Carmen Sandiego vibe to the dark and light only version. Yeah.
So even like for the flower, I don't want them to move, so just like putting them here.
So yeah, as Johanna says in chat, final stretch for the stream. So if you've got any questions, see if you can get one in. And I'll mention while we have a couple of minutes left as well, if you missed Tuesday's session, Adrianne has an awesome session at Adobe Max, which is coming up 26th to the 28th of August if you're in the US, or the 27th to 28th if you're in Asia Pacific, about all the things she wishes she knew when she was a aspiring illustrator. I know that's not the title that you used. I think it was junior.
Junior.
Yeah. 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 It's really, really cool. So check it out.
It's just, yeah, it's the same sentiment, like aspiring.
Wow, that's so cool.
And the more you do animation, the more you won't have to do my kind of trial and error. But I think like we're almost kind of like done with this.
Yeah, it looks super great.
The yogurt advertising.
Yogurt advertising. Maybe milk. Yeah, milk or yogurt or
tourism.
Tourism, yeah.
Thanks to visit Victoria.
And well, we've got a couple of minutes left. A question always comes up with animation, everything like that. Is like, just how do you export it? Like, do you like? Might be very simple, or is there any particular tricks or anything that you try to keep an eye on, like length and file size and things like that?
I think generally like like you add to Adobe Media Encoder queue and loading. So I'll get to that when it finishes loading. But like I think usually the normal setting is H.264 compressed.
Mm-hmm.
And that will export it to MP4, which is more friendly and just slower in size. If you export it to like MOV format, it gets really big. Like usually it retains more quality, I think, but then at the same time it just gets amazingly big.
Right.
So
that's an issue if you're like uploading it to your website or uploading it to a social media platform or something, because it'll just be too big or something.
Yeah, you usually like match source high by bitrate. Like I use like because of chemistry, I think like there's like nitrate, and then I read it as bitrate or something, but that is bitrate.
Bitrate, yeah.
And if you don't have audio, you can just like turn off the like audio sampling. So just making sure like you're exporting at what you need. You can resize it. Say for instance, like you just. Oh, I think this is also like another like good trick. Like when you send a file for review to clients, rather than like sending like the final resolution, it's like you send say like a smaller version, so enough for them to review, but not enough for them to like this doesn't happen a lot. But then like just to keep things like especially like when you final deliverables upon payment and everything like that. It's
that can be super important, right? Yeah.
So like while you are still working in a higher resolution, but you're actually just exporting it for review in a smaller one. And sometimes, or even you want to preview something quickly, just export it into a smaller size. And then I think here you can also change like the render quality as well. So just to like here, like you untick the export audio because there's no audio, and I think it will say here like what is roughly is gonna turn out like the size. So I think when exporting, like it's about balancing the quality and also like the size. And you can also export as GIF, but that's going to be huge.
Yeah, it'll be huge. Yeah. Oh, cool. That's super great. We're actually out of time, so I think maybe we'll check it out for one more time. Maybe we can watch the animation.
That's what we created with our cow illustration. We're gonna add more cows, obviously, if that's your thing.
Just more cows. Yeah. Always, all day. That's super great. I know some people wanted to have a check out the first one, so check out the first the one we did on Tuesday. You can watch the replay on YouTube and check it out, and you can kind of see how we got here. But Adrianne, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Yeah, thanks also, Flynn, for the chance to share with this behind the scenes things.
It's always great hanging out with you. I always learn particularly one little tip, and I think it was the light in After Effects for me this time. So I'm looking forward to the next stream where you teach me something else. Super great.
Study.
Yeah,
I'll study more.
I'm sure you'll find you'll just naturally do something, and I'll be like, whoa, what was that? But yeah, it's super great hanging out with you. All of you in chat, make sure you check out Adrianne's session at Adobe Max. It's awesome. Super great for really anybody that's creating, like not just illustrators and not just juniors and aspiring creatives. So please check it out. Adrianne, thank you once again, and thank you everyone in chat, and we'll see you on Adobe Live next week. Bye.
Bye.